Welcome, tiny humans! Today, I'm your guide through the chaotic, messy, and epic story of how the United States came to be. He dusts himself off and adds, and don't worry, I'll make it quick, fun, and maybe a little too ridiculous. We begin in the 15th century. Stickman Columbus bumps his stick ship into the coastline and yells, "Land ho!" while accidentally falling into the water. Behind him, stickmen dressed as Native Americans facepalm in unison. "Yep, this is the start," says the narrator, the so-called discovery of America, which was actually already discovered by people who lived here first. Centuries later, stickmen in fancy wigs march across the Atlantic with tea boxes in their hands. "The British are here," the narrator shouts, as stickmen colonists look annoyed. Taxes, rules, and, worst of all, bad tea. One colonist stickman kicks the tea box dramatically into the harbor, sparking the Boston Tea Party, while everyone claps like it's a rock concert. The year 1776 arrives with fireworks and stickmen waving papers. This is the Declaration of Independence, our narrator explains, while George Washington stickman holds the document upside down. 13 colonies told Britain, "We're done, we're free, and we're probably gonna fight about it. A lot." The scene shifts into stickmen shooting cannons, riding horses, and slipping on banana peels mid-battle. The Revolutionary War plays out with absurd comedy. One stickman yells, "Charge!" only to trip over his musket. Another fires a cannon and accidentally launches himself instead of the cannonball. The narrator laughs. Despite the chaos, the colonists won, thanks to determination, strategy, and a little help from the French stickmen with fancy hats. Now the young nation needed a leader. George Washington stickman steps onto a stage, waves, and his wig flies off into the crowd. "First president," the narrator announces proudly. Behind him, stickmen hammer away at wooden planks that spell USA, while others accidentally build it backwards. "Hey, we were still figuring things out," the narrator adds. Then came expansion. Stickmen settlers pile into tiny wagons, traveling west across cartoonish mountains. "Manifest destiny," the narrator explains, as stickmen try to herd cows, chase gold, and dodge tumbleweeds. Of course, conflict brews with native stickmen, who roll their eyes and mutter, "Here we go again." The narrator sighs. This part wasn't all fun and games. The 1800s grow messy. Slavery became a burning issue, the narrator says, as stickmen in chains appear while others debate furiously. Abraham Lincoln stickman enters the frame with a tall hat so heavy he can barely stand. This man tried to keep the nation together, and spoiler alert, civil war. Cannons boom, stickmen fall over dramatically, and one accidentally fires a chicken instead of a cannonball. The Civil War rages with exaggerated chaos. Union stickmen and Confederate stickmen bump into each other, clashing in silly yet intense battles. "It was brutal, it was tragic," the narrator says seriously, but the outcome mattered. Slavery ended, the Union survived, and Lincoln became a symbol of freedom, although his hat never stopped being way too tall. After the war, stickmen in suits rebuild cities, plant flags, and argue over laws. Reconstruction was complicated, the narrator notes, but America was determined to move forward. Meanwhile, one stickman accidentally builds a skyscraper upside down. Okay, maybe not always smoothly, the narrator chuckles. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Factories sprout like mushrooms, trains race across the screen, and stickmen invent everything from light bulbs to telephones. One stickman tries to call another, but ends up talking into a shoe. Progress was wild, noisy, and sometimes ridiculous, but it set the stage for America's future. The turn of the 20th century brings stickmen in old cars honking at each other while others dance to jazz in crowded clubs. America was booming, the narrator exclaims, but then a stock chart crashes dramatically to the floor. The Great Depression hit like a piano falling from the sky, the narrator sighs, showing stickmen standing in long breadlines. World War II arrives with stickmen in helmets parachuting into the frame. This was America's chance to rise as a global power, the narrator says. Planes, tanks, and stickmen carrying sandwiches charge into battle. From Pearl Harbor to victory, America played a key role in ending the war. The final shot shows stickmen waving flags on a hill, accidentally poking each other in the eye with them. Post-war America explodes with culture. Stickmen drive shiny cars, watch black and white TVs, and eat hamburgers as big as their heads. The American dream, the narrator cheers, while a stickman Elvis shakes his hips so hard that his stick legs fall off. Rock and roll, highways, suburbs, this was a new era of energy. Then came the 1960s. Stickmen marched for civil rights, holding signs while dodging cartoon police batons. This was about equality, the narrator says firmly. Meanwhile, Martin Luther King Jr. Stickman gives a speech all birds rest on his arm. He has a dream, he declares, before sneezing and dropping his notes. Space race time. Stickman astronauts bounce around, struggling to fit into spacesuits. 1969, baby. America landed on the moon. Neil Armstrong Stickman plants a flag, only for it to fall over and hit Buzz Aldrin Stickman on the head. One small step for Stickmen, one giant trip on the moon, the narrator jokes. The late 20th century zooms past in a montage. Stickmen surfing the internet, playing video games, and binging on fast food. Progress was wild, noisy, and sometimes ridiculous. The narrator says, a stickman accidentally unplugs the internet cable, causing a nationwide panic. Okay, maybe too much reliance on Wi-Fi, he chuckles. The 21st century hits with skyscrapers, smartphones, and social media stickmen taking selfies until their arms fall off. America became the land of memes, movies, and Marvel. Stickmen dress as superheroes, tripping over their capes. But behind the laughs, America still faces big challenges. Economy, politics, environment, you name it. Finally, the stickman narrator reappears holding a glowing map of the U.S. From colonies to superpower, America's story is messy, chaotic, inspiring, and just a little absurd. Kind of like this animation. He drops the map, which explodes like fireworks and grins. That's history stickman style. Thanks for sticking around. The screen fades out with the narrator chasing his own wig shouting, "Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, or I'll drop more tea into the harbor!"